Hello, everyone. So, during our previous video discussions, we've talked about the practical side or the practices that we perform in land preparation, mainly the different soil management practices that we perform. Okay, so for this video discussion, we'll be going to the other side, which is the theories and the terms that are involved in land preparation. So at this point, we all probably know that land preparation is one of the most expensive of all operations that we perform in crop production. This is mainly true in producing rice since hindi lang yung labor ng manggagawa ang iyong i-consider. You also need to consider the payment or rent for the equipment that you need to use in land preparation and also the gas or diesel to be used. Okay, so before we dive in to our discussion, let us first unlock some difficulties by defining some of the terms that we will encounter in our discussion. Okay, so we have here some terms. Una dyan ay ang term na tillage. So tillage is the practice of working the soil to bring about more favorable conditions for plant growth. So yung naka kulay red, so those are the root words or root phrases that you need to remember. So next term is plowing, plowing or plowing. Bahala na kayo kung paano nyo sabihin. So plowing is the process of breaking the soil surface at an ideal depth. So ang ideal depth mostly is at around 6 to 7 inches deep. The next term we have harrowing. Harrowing is the process of breaking bigger soil clods into finer soil particles with the use of harrow implements. So harrow implements that we have the spike tooth harrow and other harrow implements. The next term we have conventional tillage. Conventional tillage is the tillage operation where primary and secondary tillage is employed. So further on during our discussion, we'll be discussing about what primary and secondary tillage are. Then the last term in our list, we have minimum or reduced or economy tillage. So in here, only the necessary tillage operations are employed. Okay, next, so we're done with different terminologies that we'll be dealing with in this discussion. So next, we'll be talking about the prominent personalities that have contributions in land preparation. Iisa lang naman yung personality na kailangan nating kilalanin when we're talking about land preparation, and that would be none other than Mr. Jethro Tull. Jethro Tull. So Jethro Tull is considered as the father of modern tillage. So bakit siya consider bilang father of modern tillage? It is because of his contributions, mainly his invention of the seed drill in 1701 as a way to plant more efficiently. Then he also invented the horse-drawn hoe or hoe plow, and he also improved the designs of the plow. Then he published his book in 1731 titled The New Horse Howing Husbandry, or an essay on the principles of tillage and vegetation. So that is Jethro Tull, the father of modern tillage. Then on top of his picture, we have another definition for the term tillage. So tillage is the manual or mechanized manipulation of the soil to provide a medium for proper crop establishment and growth. So sabi, either manual or mechanized. So kapag manual, gamit ang ating force, gamit ang ating kamay, or pwede rin gamit ang ating mga draft animals. Then kapag mechanized, gamit ang ating mga farm equipments, mga machineries natin. Okay, so let's proceed. We have here a picture of Jethro Tull's seed drill and his invention, the horse hoe. Ayon. Okay, so let's proceed to the next aspect of our discussion. We have here the purposes of land preparation. So the general purpose of land preparation is to create a favorable environment for the plants to germinate and grow, for the seeds to germinate and for the plants to grow. So adequate and efficient land preparation will help to improve soil structure to make root penetration easier. So kapag na-improve yung soil structure, meaning napaganda yung circulation ng air, yun yung ventilation, then napaganda yung permeability, then of course, nalusen yung root zone. Then, it will also help to improve field topography to facilitate irrigation and drainage. So, ano ulit yung topography? So, topography refers to the lay of the land. So, it's either it is flat, it is slopey, steep. So, those are considered as topography. Then, land preparation will also help to distribute weeds and crop residues evenly over the field and incorporate them into the soil. And also, it will help to obtain good recovery of fertilizer nutrients. And lastly, eliminate weeds and soil-borne diseases. So those are the purposes of land preparation. The next, let's proceed to the different tillage operations. So, andito na yung ating tillage operations. One is primary tillage, then the second is secondary tillage. So, unahin natin si primary tillage. So, primary tillage, under primary tillage, we have plowing. So, plowing is the first step in the preparation of the seedbed. And take note that it is also the most aggressive of all tillage operations that we perform. And the main purpose of plowing is to incorporate weeds and stubbles underneath the soil and to partly pulverize the soil. And sabi dito, plowing should be done when the soil is moist. Moist meaning basa, pero hindi basang-basa at hindi rin dry. Kasi daw, if the soil is too dry, it may break claddy. Claddy, yung malalaking clads or bingkol in Ilocano. And marereduce yung pulverization. Then kapag too wet naman, the soil will be damaged by puddling or breaking down of soil granules. And you should also take note that the number of plowing is dependent on several factors. And those factors are the soil type, the weed density, the moisture content of the soil, and the planting materials or material to be used. So soil type, it's either Ano ba yung soil type mo? Is it clayey or sandy? So nakadepende yon yung number ng plowing and also with density. So of course, kung manipis lang yung width or maliit lang yung number ng width, so one plowing operation is enough. Whereas kung marami naman yung weeds sa iyong field, of course, baka yung iisang plowing operation ay hindi magiging sapat. Baka kailangan mong ulitin. Then of course, yung moisture content ng lupa ay kailangan rin natin i-consider. Then, the planting material to be used. If you'll be using seed as your planting material, of course, kailangan na pulido yung pagka-plow or pagkatil ng lupa para mas maganda yung kanyang germination. Then, kapag cuttings naman or seedlings na agad yung iyong planting material, so magkakaroon ka ng leeway para i-minimize or i-lessen yung pag-plow mo. Okay, so we have here pictures of the implements or tools that are used in plowing. Una dyan yung grab hoe, mainly ginagamit kapag manual ang pagpla-plow. Manual physikalan, gamit ang handle nga yan, di ba? Then, of course, we have the plow and the moldboard plow. So, these are implements. Sabi natin kapag implement, these are animal drawn or machinery drawn. So, hinihila ng mga hayop or ng mga machines. Then, the other tillage operation, we have the secondary tillage. So, under secondary tillage is harrowing. So, harrowing is usually done 7 to 10 days intervals after plowing. So, 7 to 10 days interval daw after plowing. It is shallow cultivation of soil, and take note that it is less aggressive than the primary tillage. Then the purpose of harrowing is to pulverize the clods that were left after plowing and to level the soil and also to destroy new weed growth. Then harrowing, sabi dito, it protects the soil from rapid drying and it also improves air and water penetrability. Okay, so mga implements or tools that are used in harrowing, we have the disc harrow, spike tooth harrow, spring tooth harrow. Okay, so those are the two tillage operations that we perform in our tilling practices, the primary tillage or the plowing and the secondary tillage or the harrowing. Okay, now let's proceed to the different forms of tillage operations. So una dyan ay yung ating conventional tillage. Conventional meaning this is what we usually practice in our fields. So in conventional tillage, it results in a residue-free soil surface at planting time. So kapag conventional, ginagawa natin both yung primary and secondary tillage operations. And it result in a residue-free, so meaning walang mga weeds, walang mga stubbles. So clear siya from weeds and stubbles. Wala kang makikita na anumang weeds or plant material na natira. So malinis na malinis ang kanyang pagka-araro. So that's conventional tillage. Then another form of tillage operation, we have conservation tillage from the root word conserve. So it maintains residue from previous crops with the goal of reducing soil erosion and conserving moisture. And of course, since nako-conserve yung tillage, conservation tillage nga. So, nakaka-conserve rin ito or nakaka-reduce ng production cost due to land preparation. Then we have here some types of conservation tillage. Una dyan si strip or zone tillage, which is the pictures. Itong mga picture na to ay strip or zone tillage. So, yung may strips lang, yung kanilang kinagalaw, wherein itong mga strips na to ang magiging ang pagtatamnan na ng mga planting material. Then of course, we have zero tillage. Zero meaning zero nga. So, walang tillage operation na ginawa or in-implement. Then, another form of tillage operation, we have the contour tillage. So, it is tillage along the slopes to prevent or minimize erosion. This is mostly done in slopey areas. So, dito na papasok yung ating SALT, S-A-L-T. That's the acronym for Sloping Agriculture Land Technology, SALT. Okay, so those are the different forms of tillage operations. Then dito naman, we have here terracing. Terracing is not a form of tillage operation, but is a soil conservation method. So in terracing, the slope of the land is modified into a series of successively flat surfaces to minimize the slope and to prevent erosion. Okay, so let's now proceed to the next chapter or next aspect of our discussion. We have here the different tillage patterns. So tillage patterns, kapag sinabi natin tillage patterns, we're talking about the direction in plowing and harrowing. So dapat natin i-consider yung direction para ma-reduce natin yung overall cost of the farm operation, mainly in land preparation. So we have here different types of tillage patterns. Una dyan si circuitous pattern. Okay, so circuitous pattern, paikot starting from the edge, then works toward the center of the field. So nauna siya sa labas, dito sa labas. Then it works paloob, paikot, then inwards. Okay, so circuitous pattern is most commonly used system for plowing in Asia. Then it commonly used with moldboards, discs, and offset discs. Then another type of tillage pattern, we have the headland pattern, subtype one-way pattern. So, ang headland pattern, one-way pattern, is ganito yung kanyang direction. So, the field is plowed in runs parallel to each other. So, nag-start sa isang edge, then ganon, parallel lines that run to each other. So it starts at one boundary of the field and ends at the opposite. It is used for bigger pieces of land and can only be used for rotavators, harrows, and reversible plows. Then this one is usually the most field-efficient system of tillage patterns. Then another subtype of headland pattern, we have the gathering pattern. So kapag gathering pattern, it requires plowing to begin in the center of the field. So nag-i-start daw siya sa center ng field and works out to the edges. So from the center, then paikot palabas. So kabaliktaran siya ng circuitous pattern na nag-i-start sa labas then paloob. Okay, so since nag-i-start nga siya sa gitna, so it requires some measurement of the field para ma-establish natin yung kanyang certain point. Sabi dito, if done correctly, it leaves a level field with drainage channels on the edges. So ito ay very efficient or very advantageous lalo na sa mga areas na malalim or sabi natin sa Ilocano yung mga lungog. Okay, so this system can be used with all types of plows. Okay, so those are the different tillage patterns that we can perform or that we can try observe in our tilling practices or tillage operations. Okay, so let's now proceed to the last part of our discussion. We have here the two types of land preparation. So we have the lowland or wetland preparation and the upland or dryland preparation. So based from the picture, very obvious na yung kanilang difference. So there's one step difference between these two types of land preparation. And that step involves water. So sabi dito, under lowland or wetland preparation, we have 4 steps. Una dyan yung soaking or pag-submerge sa tubig, then plowing, harrowing, then lastly leveling. Whereas sa upland or dryland naman, wala siyang soaking. Nag-start na sa plowing, then second is harrowing or rotation, then lastly is leveling. Okay, so let's discuss further the differences between these two land preparation types. So I've made here a table showing their differences. So under lowland or wetland preparation, flooding breaks soil clads into smaller aggregates and particles, and penetration resistance in plowing is reduced. So nababreak daw yung mga soil clads or yung mga malalaking clads nga, yung mga buo-buong soil into smaller aggregates and particles. Then, yung resistance daw ng plowing is nare-reduce. Then, kapag upland naman, no flooding is involved, so walang tubig. Then, tillage is convenient. Then, under lowland ulit, paddling destroys soil structure and particles are densely packed and soil is compacted. So, since paddling nga or submerged na lubog na sa tubig, so yung composition ng soil ay magiging clayey. Whereas nagiging then smaller aggregates meaning mas malaki yung kanilang surface tension. Kaya naman nagiging compacted sila. Then kapag upland or dryland naman, the soil structure and soil granulation are maintained. So, hindi nababago yung kanyang soil structure and yung kanyang granulation. Granulation, yung kanyang pagka buo-buo. Granulation nga. Then, under lowland ulit, macropores are lost and only micropores prevail. So, upon drying of soil, bulk density is much increased. So, you probably know about the macropores and micropores already. Tama ba? Tama, right? So, this one, you've already discussed this in your soil science. So, macropores and macropores have different purposes or different usage. So kapag macropores, it is responsible for the drainage of excess water. Then macropores rin, responsible siya for drainage ng water ang macropores. Then kapag micropores naman, micropores is responsible for holding water. Okay? So kapag lowland, nawawala lahat ng mga macropores, then ang natitira lang ay mga micropores. Kaya naman, compacted, then very submerged, so lubog na lahat sa tubig. Wala nang drainage. Then under upland ulit, so macropores and micropores are maintained. Then lowland, paddling results in high soil water retention capacity. So water retention is the work of micropores. Then upland, downward movement of water is normal and water drains easily. So drainage is the function of the macropores. Retention is the function of the micropores. Okay, gets na? Gets na yan. Okay? Lastly, tillage without water submergence is difficult. This one is under lowland. Since kapag wala ng tubig or hindi na submerge yung lupa, ay mag-i-increase yung bulk density and magiging compacted, so titigas yung lupa. Then under upland naman, tillage is easy. Okay, so those are the differences between lowland or wetland operation, preparation, and upland or dryland preparations. Okay, so I hope that you've understood our discussion. But if you find it quite difficult or medyo nahihilo kayo or nako-confuse, then probably you can repeat watching this discussion, or kung hindi pa rin kaya, then you can just chat your queries sa ating GC para maliwanagan tayong lahat. Okay? Okay, so that's the end of this discussion. Thank you and goodbye.